You got me?
I've got you.
Oh, nice.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay, move on. There is nothing here to see.
Talk to me about what's going on in your background there.
So we've got some of the music stuff. You can see we've got a microphone there.
Nice.
A few records that I've placed to make it look like I'm cultured. Got a bass guitar, acoustic guitar, and my red Stratocaster that I think is on every track on this album.
That's your weapon of choice.
That is my weapon of choice. The acoustic isn't even on it anymore, which is every other EP has had some acoustic on it, but this is, I guess there is an acoustic on the opening track, but it's not that acoustic. I've since given away that acoustic. I've given it to a friend for his birthday. So
this felt like the most epic Tomer Krail record yet.
Sorry, go on.
I think it's the most powerful sounding, like you say, the most electric, certainly.
I guess that's because it's all tracked live. The guitars, the drums, the vocals on most of the tracks were live takes as well that I did just to keep us all in time. But then it's one of those where we listened to it afterwards and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do better than that. Like, it's a bit scrappy, but it's in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Do you enjoy that kind of authenticity of it? The kind of scrappy sounding?
Well, I like that for myself, even if no one else is ever going to know that apart from people who've listened to this podcast. I'm like, hey, I managed to sing it in one take and it doesn't sound awful, you know. And there's a few bits you might have noticed where I'm laughing because like something's happened in the control room or I've played a wrong chord or something or the drummer's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's natural. And people have mentioned that to me that they quite like hearing they like hearing a lead singer laugh, even if they don't necessarily know what it's about, which is, I guess it's humanizing.
I really like that. My favorite thing on records is and there's a few that spring to mind. One of them is Passenger by Iggy Pop, but there's a bunch of them where I'm confident that they came in too early on the first line, but it was just left in. After this, play the Passenger really loud, headphones on, and you'll hear him go, I am, about 4 bars too early.
Especially Iggy, because he was probably on a lot of heroin at that point, so his reactions are a bit slow. I think my favorite one of that is, we both like The Who, and we were just talking about your Roger Daltrey poster back there, but on Eminence Front, you've heard Eminence Front, haven't you? Because it's on San Andreas. And on the first Eminence Front, if you listen to it, it sounds like Shamanama, because Daltrey comes in like a beat too late and they're both singing in like different points, but it's just on the record and it kind of sounds cool. But it's one of those music things, once you know it's there, you'll never not hear it.
Yeah.
Another
like
one
when you hear the lyrics for a song, when you hear the correct lyrics for a song, but you only ever hear the lyrics that you thought they were in the first place.
You've got to write them down. Like I've gotten some lyrics doing that. Write down the lyrics you think they were, because for me, I forget them like 1 or 2 listens after I found out what the actual lyrics are, and then I'll just never hear it the other way again.
Yeah,
it's like
I always prefer my own as well.
Yeah. It's most of the time better. I think Faith No More were a really good example of that. That song, Midlife Crisis. Like I like the lyrics, but what I thought it was much better. Like, and that guy doesn't sing too clear as well, so you can really imagine your own like ideas on top of what he's doing.
Incredible song. I heard them at Rockworch, the festival in Belgium, because it was meant to be the Foo Fighters, and it was that year that Dave Grohl ended up cancelling all of their shows. Although some of them he played from I think he rolled an armchair onto the stage, because I remember there was loads of headlines
about his leg or his arm or something.
Yeah, and the first like 50 shows they were booked for, it was just like, nope, cancelled, and then eventually there was this gimmick of him getting wheeled onto stage. I didn't get to see that, but randomly Faith No More ended up being the replacement act, and I was like, cool.
You
Fine.
must have been one of the few people who were like, yeah, I'm down with this. I mean, if you turn up for the Foo Fighters, most people don't remember who Faith No More are, right?
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell is this? It's not like radio-friendly rock. I guess some of it is radio-friendly, but not that radio-friendly.
So we kind of got off the subject of the new album there, but what are you feeling about it at the moment? Do you have a favorite track, or do you have a track in mind where you think it's going to be the big release from it?
For me, the opening single, Trial of Honesty, is probably the track I like the most. And that's probably because when the songs were just first coming out, that was the one where I was like, oh, that needs some work. But then it's one of those where you pile on the extra bits, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh no, this has sneakily become the best song, like, or at least my favorite song. And we're playing that one live at the moment, and I enjoy doing that. A lot of people really who tell me they really like So Unfaithful, So Untrue, like, I get different reactions from different people. Like some of my friends from back home who like classic rock really like Summer Solstice because it's got a big heavy guitar riff. It's kind of like my tribute to classic rock. And there's loads of guitar shredding on it as well, which is something I try and resist doing. But like on that track, it was just like, no, load up the fuzz pedal and just go mental. Like,
It's 100% a guitar lover's album, and that was the thing that hit me first. I think is you obviously layer so many guitar riffs over it, whether it's the overdrive pedal guitars or like you say the Summer Solstice stuff, where it's a bit more kind of classic rock feel. Yeah,
and that's mainly just because that's what I know how to interact with. I want to get better at using synths and stuff, and I like using synths, and there are some synths on the album, but like synthesizers, I need someone else to set up the synthesizer, and I need to be there going, make it do this squealy thing, or make it go whoom, 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 and they go, yeah, okay, I think I know what you mean, and they make it work. And for me, that's my guy, Ed West, who produced the album, and we recorded about half of it at his studio. He knows how synths work. I can just mess around on a keyboard and go, yeah, that sounds nice. But I think future music will become more synthy, but I don't want to go down that route too much because I feel like most people do electronic music now, and it's probably quite fun for people to listen to guitar-based music that's like quite intricate.
You genuinely realize when you listen to an album that's not so electronic, how much we've kind of become immersed in it, and it's become kind of a given that there'll be a lot of elements of that when you hear it kind of stripped back. Even though this isn't by any means an unplugged album, but just the fact that, like you say, it's not so heavily electronic or electronic at all, really. It does strike you and just make you think it is definitely a different sound these days.
Yeah, and maybe that will come back. I mean, I feel like guitars will always be popular while humans exist. But I do worry, especially when I teach kids how to play guitar, that the things they're using as references for their guitar playing are the same things people have been using for like the last 30 years. They want to learn AC/DC, they want to learn Led Zeppelin, they want to learn, I wanted to say the Beatles. I actually wish more of them wanted to learn the Beatles. Guns N' Roses is still massively popular. And it makes me think, that's great, but like those, and I love all that music as well. Like, even Guns N' Roses, who are kind of like a guilty pleasure to a certain extent, though they do the first album really rocks.
I think it's one of the best first albums of all time.
Yeah, possibly like one of the ratio of really great first album, then they don't really have that much beyond that is like amazing.
No, one of those, definitely. Immediate drop off.
But, kids, it's great that kids still want to play Sweet Child of Mine, but we also need to give them some new riffs that they can learn and make their own guitar-based riffs. I mean, music has to keep moving, I think. It has to, as much as I like the past, we have to keep creating new stuff in that idiom and finding a way to, make it new. I guess for me, the way I make it new is by combining it with jazz harmony and kind of unconventional structures in songwriting.
So I think if I've got my timing right, you've recorded all of this album in lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I recorded like the basic tracks, the drums, the guitar, the bass, and the sort of the rough vocals. And then I left it for like, a month, maybe 2 months before I went back to it. It felt like a weird time to be like, working on stuff just because all this news was coming in all the time. And like, I ended up working on something completely different for most of that period.
Yeah.
Especially because I kind of knew I wouldn't be able to fully get it finished as well until lockdown was kind of lifted, because I needed to record a few other musicians as well. I did some of that over Zoom. It isn't amazing for like certain types of music, I think, trying to do stuff like that over the internet. You need a lot of like, no, try it like this, do that, and if you're recording something and you end up messing up one chain of the process, which is easier to do on the internet, then you have to go and do it again. And I never ever want to do things more than once, you know what I mean?
Surely the delay alone must make it nearly unworkable for some aspects of songwriting and song recording.
Yeah, definitely. The delay, you can't jam with people and work out the ideas. And more, that's what I want to do with people, like, is jam with it the first time and, work out what we're going to do organically. Right? The early stuff is generally, I have a song idea, we record it, and then normally I end up layering up loads of extra things on top. And it, ends up, it has its own sound, but like, it's also tiring. I don't want to do that all the time. So it's nice if other people organically play it with me, and then we can, put their parts down all together. I think the next album will be even more like that, where we'll probably just jam it all live, and that'll be it.
Yeah. Started to think about whether or not there's going to be this year-long, or maybe more even, period in music history where suddenly we have all of these albums with weird quirks and fallouts and recording and lots of weird echoes that we can't put our finger on. It's because loads of parts of it were recorded remotely, and
Yeah, I think that's going to be a part of it. I don't know if it'll even be a dead point for music. I never really know what's going on in the mainstream as well. I imagine the really big artists are still recording in their studios now, even though it's locked down. But
yeah,
this was one of the fun things about lockdown, though, when you saw the musicians who were doing the live stream performances from home, the famous ones, and a lot of them really did not sound great. And they clearly didn't have access to like what they're used to, their whole team, their recording engineers, their studio engineers and whatnot. And that was, I think, quite a humbling process for a lot of them.
I was going to say, you took the word out of my mouth. I think it's humbling. People become a lot more accessible, don't they, during lockdown, and everyone has to become a social media expert immediately if they want to keep in touch with their audience. How do you feel about social media when it comes to being an artist?
I feel better about it now than I did when I was first starting out. I just don't care as much anymore now. Like, if I'll put things on social media just to be like, this is out here, and if people react to it or don't react to it, it doesn't massively upset me. And so many times I've put something out on social media and it feels like no one's responded to it, and then I'll have a conversation with someone in person and they're like, oh, I saw that thing the other day. Oh yes, I liked it. So there's always a silent majority out there that are like viewing these things. So, and it's the way you get music to people now. You tell them about it on Facebook or Twitter, or Instagram is increasingly popular. And getting involved with like online music communities as well, like IMF, which we talked about last time. That's a really positive community, so it's actually quite fun sharing my music there, and that kind of makes up for how bad the rest of it is. One really nice positive community makes that difference. And I've learned more about the internet. Like, I feel like I'm pretty pro with technology and the internet compared to like most people, and then when I talk to, the nerds on Reddit and IMF and stuff, I don't know anything. I don't know how to do any codes or any, like they're saying, just, type in this, blah, 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 and you'll be able to get to do this. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you found that, because you're quite computer savvy, you must you must know more than most people, but then you meet someone who really knows how to hack the matrix and you don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think because I work so closely with things like marketing, people assume that I know how to fix a computer, say, and I have no idea. Part of it is that my knee-jerk response is to call up some kind of support or email some kind of support line. So I've never figured out how to fix even the most basic computer problems.
See, that's something I can actually do, but again, it's just simple things like my friend recently asked me to change his MacBook battery because I'd mentioned that I'd done it myself, and he was like, wow, I can't believe you managed to do that. I mean, you opened it up, you did all this, blah, 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 and I made it sound more complicated. I was like, yeah, I just had to get off the Xenon motherboard and then resolder the mainframe. As soon as I said the mainframe, people normally cock onto the fact that I'm talking shit, but it's really easy. You just open up the MacBook and pop the battery out and pop another one in. But if you don't know about it,
possible. I thought the whole idea with Apple products was that you're not supposed to be able to fix things yourself. Right.
Well, these are the older models where they hadn't quite worked. They hadn't quite taken away that, so you can change a few of the parts. But you can see why. My MacBook is like 8 years old now, and it's still good. Apple must be furious. They'll probably hear this through Zoom and decide to send a crippling virus to my computer tonight. But
that's Apple, one potential sponsor down the drain.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
What's your take on, to risk another sponsor never being able to jump on board? What's your take on Spotify and Spotify's changing of the industry?
Yeah, Spotify. I mean, I get paid like 0.00002 cents for each play, and it ends up being less than that because if you're an indie artist who has a small dedicated fan base, the way the algorithm works out, you get paid even less. You get paid more if, say you have one song like Ed Sheeran and like millions of people listen to it once. You get more for that than if millions of people listen, but they're the same small group of people listening over and over again. So if you really love my song and you listen to it 20 times, which some poor individuals actually have done, that benefits me less than if just 20 random people listen to it once. And, they could have all hated it. They listen to it 20 times and then they're like, I'm never listening to that again. But that's going to end up costing me more money. It's going to end up earning me more money.
Is that unethical, do you think?
Yeah, that's wrong. I mean, the big artists at the top of the pie don't need that extra advantage that they've already got. Do you know what I mean? And obviously it's not Ed Sheeran himself that's pushing for this, but it's whoever owns the rights to his music just wants more and more of that fee. But there's definitely a better way to split up that £10 or whatever that people pay a month. And I will say, maybe it shouldn't be £10. I don't actually know. I haven't subscribed to Spotify for a while. Is it £10 at the moment to sign up?
I think the plan that I'm on is £10. I think you can split it up in different ways.
It should be more than that. I know that's a controversial thing, but it should be more. Maybe it should be based on how much you're listening. If you have a £10 plan and you're listening not that often, sure, that's fine. But you could get a £10 plan and you're listening every day to new artists all the time, and that means they're just getting less and less of that £10 that you're putting in each time. So to Spotify, it doesn't matter. If you sign up people for £10, they can still take a massive chunk and still make a load of money. But we should pay more for music. It is an important thing, something we all care about. If we devalue it, it will be devalued, and music will become more lowest common denominator and more derivative.
I feel like almost, does it make the platforms more valuable or less valuable when they have millions of shows on them or millions of tracks on them, on the other hand? I feel like you should definitely pay more because of that alone.
Yeah.
Probably the bigger the library becomes of something like Spotify, and it becomes more of a monopoly. I suppose the economic argument is that because so many people are using it, it can be cheaper. But then, they should definitely pay more to support the artists, like you say.
Yeah, they've done something recently as well, Spotify, where they're allowing you to take a profit hit, which is amazing considering how small the profits are already. But the algorithm will favor you about 50% more. So, of course, everyone is going to go for that algorithm favoring, because we all want to. A lot of human history now is going to be just trying to please the algorithm. But everyone will accept that. It'll mean, at the moment, it's like the algorithm favors you this much, you get paid this much. So it's now saying take a cut, and then the algorithm will favor you more. And you end up in the same situation, except you're being paid less because everyone is doing the same thing. It's really sneaky and it's smart, because it's basically handing us the noose and saying, you don't have to, but if you want to, we'll give you this cake, and then you end up hanging yourself. I'm not looking forward to that, and I will probably end up joining it as well, because I don't want to get left behind I don't want my music to be unfavorably treated because I haven't taken a pay cut. But it kind of reminds me of something that like Uber would do. Do you know what I mean? To like their employees,
Well, I was about to say, it's the story of big tech, isn't it? You create something that's incredibly accessible, fill the pool full of all of the early starters and all the kind of the early adopters of your technology, and then suddenly the next day you wake up and everything's for sale, and you've built out this kind of space that's been encroached on just because people have money.
The internet giants now have a stranglehold on culture because they know people are going to keep going to those. Trying to tell people don't use Facebook is like saying don't drink from that river. Like your job is Facebook. Maybe not so much nowadays, but like definitely at a point. Facebook is how you log into a load of different things. Sometimes it's the only way to log into a certain site. Same thing with Spotify. A lot of music is only on there, or only on another similarly exploitative, music streaming site. YouTube, it's the same situation there. Like someone who's an original content creator for YouTube can go to like Daily Motion or something, but it's not really a choice because the audience is at YouTube. If they want to make money, they've got to use YouTube, and then they've got to kowtow to their standards. And we've kind of let it happen because we don't think of the internet as being this important thing still, which is mad because it is pretty much everything now, especially during lockdown. By the way, I'm going to have to wrap this up relatively soon. Did we talk about the album enough?
What are your feelings about it looking back on it now? Where do you see it alongside your other records?
I think it's probably the best work I've done in terms of its the most continuous. I think it fits together well thematically, and it's kind of like better produced but also a bit scrappy, which is kind of the combination I like. But I'm already thinking about the next thing. The next thing is going to be a self-produced album that I made during lockdown that's going to sound a lot more lo-fi and back to basics than this. And then I've got a live band now, and we're sounding pretty good. Obviously, we've had to take a bit of break in rehearsing, but we're coming back strong, and we'll probably be recording a new thing in January or February. So I'll listen to it again in like a month or so. I can't listen to it at the moment because I've just heard it too much. That always happens. But I'll come back to it and reassess it. But yeah, I'm always thinking about the next thing as well. Like, what am I going to do next? What's the next song to work on? So,
I mean, I'm still loving it. As you know, I enjoyed listening to it. I thought it was epic and just great to hear like another album for guitar lovers. I can't remember the last one that I heard where I was like, this is just awesome guitar throughout. Where do you want people to listen to it? Where's your preferred? Where should people discover this?
I want people to buy it on Bandcamp as a controversial proposition. I think I put this in an email somewhere where someone asked me about something else I was doing. I said, buy it on Bandcamp or steal it on Spotify. I mean, I'm not going to judge you either way as well. Like, it's all out there now.
Right. It was good. It was good catching up with you.
Nice chatting with you, Dan. Always good to speak.
And I'll speak to you soon.
Live long and prosper. Can't do the thing. Can do it with this hand.